What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Apartment 113 podcast, where we talk with cool folks in the cannabis and psychedelics industry to learn about their projects and celebrate their successes. My name is Rob Sanchez, and this is episode 40. We're joined today by Jeremy Johnson, who works for Dispense as a business development manager. Dispense creates e-comm menu experiences for dispensaries, along with SEO, loyalty, and order management services, among many other solutions used throughout the operations. Find out more at dispensapp.com and enjoy the show. Jeremy, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob. I appreciate it.
Dude, for sure. I've like we were saying beforehand, I've been seeing some of your posts on LinkedIn, kind of following the journey of Dispense for a while. It'll be interesting to talk about e-comm today and some of the goodness there that is driving the space.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoy it, and it's funny how LinkedIn has kind of become this place for cannabis people to be heard. You never would have imagined it, but here we are.
Yeah, it's quite a 180. I don't think LinkedIn could have imagined it either.
No, I don't think they planned for it, but I'm appreciative that for the most part, they seem to embrace it. They seem to allow us the freedom to chat most of the time.
Yes, yeah, they have to draw a line eventually, but I'd agree there. Kudos to the LinkedIn kind of product team and vision there, making an open space for real work, right? And for business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we dig into the dispense side and some of the fun things there, like inventory and order management, e-comm personalization and SEO, we'd like to kind of rewind, take a step back, and learn about your journey, kind of how you got to Dispense in or around cannabis and e-comm. Man, I saw you've got a good background at e-comm with you.
Definitely. On the cannabis side, for me, I was kind of born into it. Both of my parents were on the legacy side of things. So that was my, I won't go into the details of my introduction to cannabis, but that was my introduction to cannabis. And I was, as an adult, I was lucky that I turned 18 when Michigan went medically legal. So I got in pretty early. When I was 18, I got my med card, participated through the caregiver program here in Michigan. And then simultaneously, I got an education and background in technology. So when I graduated college, I took a job out west, and my first job was in SMS marketing, which was super interesting, like intro into the technology world. We focused on Asian and European markets. We weren't even doing SMS marketing in the US. This is like 2010/2011 kind of. But then after that, I quickly moved into web development and mobile app development. So did project management for an agency out of Oregon, and eventually we were knocking out mobile apps in 2012-13 when mobile apps were new, and that was like super fun and interesting, but I got kind of burnt out from it, just building other people's projects, and like it was crazy, man. People wanted a mobile app for everything. We were building like children game mobile apps. We built a mobile app to balance a helicopter before takeoff. Like the gamut was so wide, and some of the projects were amazing, but like it was just a lot.
It was a cycle, or a grind.
Yeah. And it's always new, right? Like you knock something out, you finish it, and then it's like on to the next, and it just gets exhausting.
Yeah, and there's a certain like you can't really work on it again, right? If you have to just finish it, get it to a stage, and move to the next.
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes when you're working on a project, you want to take it to step 2 or 3.
Yeah, and most of those clients, they would run out of money. Like they'd get an MVP off the ground, they'd run out of money, so then you wouldn't get to take it to the next step. And that's really where that's kind of where like my marketing background came in. Like I always had this desire to take it to step 2 with these projects, but never got to. So I spent a lot of time like learning how I would, and none of our clients ever had the money to do it. But I kind of taught myself SEO. I kind of taught myself digital marketing, social media
Hmm.
marketing, and I after I left the agency space, I did like some freelance stuff. But in 2018, kind of in between agency life and marketing, we were getting ready to vote on recreational in Michigan. So I moved back home, kind of prepped for that. And then we went in 2019, we went recreational. But for
Yeah.
those of you like timeline wise, like our first stores in Michigan didn't start opening until like November 2019. So I helped open some stores here, got more involved on the recreational side, and then COVID hit. And so it was this crazy moment where things converged for me personally, and all of a sudden, the only way for this brand new dispensary to continue to be profitable and stay up and running was to sell weed online. And I was like, this is great. I know how to sell stuff online.
Kind of the
Let's do
planets
it.
aligned with some of your background and
Yeah.
experience there.
Yeah. So interesting process, like kind of two paths, and then they just converged at the end of the day.
Right, man. I know that pain too of working on something that gets shelved, and and being able to like see the vision further, right, but not have the fuel to get there.
Yeah. It's frustrating, but
And I know that the Michigan process was a little bumpy for you there as the rec laws turned around, especially so with COVID. But how did it feel to come back home to a recreational laws? I know a lot
man,
of folks had to move for cannabis or went west with the
yeah.
industry originally.
I didn't necessarily move for cannabis, but like I moved for tech. So I was in
I see.
California in
I see.
like the middle medical days, I would say. I was in Oregon when they went recreational, but I was only there for like I was leaving like right when they voted. I got to vote in Oregon though, so that was cool. And then I spent some time in New Mexico when it was like early days as well. So coming back. I mean, it was just cool to see like because we had this gray market in Michigan, it was caregivers. So it was like culturally, Michigan is so advanced with cannabis, but like you couldn't sell it legally in a store. So it was just weird. And then coming back, it was like finally, like we can do this as a job and be like open about it.
Right, right. Doing it as a job and starting to use real technology, leaning into like the services that companies like Dispense offer, and all their integrations too. How did
I
the
remember
Dispense story come in?
how did what?
How did you get involved with Dispense then here in the story?
Yeah. So opening dispensaries in Michigan. I'm based in the Upper Peninsula, so we're kind of on the Wisconsin border. So COVID plus border, we got very e-commerce heavy. We were doing a crazy amount of orders online, absolutely killing it. But I quickly ran into limitations with that because well, Rob, not everybody knows, but most menu platforms at that time were iframe based.
Oh, the dreaded iframe.
Yep. And they were also marketplace based. And so there's these kind of two combinations that I kind of hit ceilings with. And, on one end, I was uncomfortable as a digital marketer, I was uncomfortable giving my customer and transaction data to marketplace based softwares because in my previous agency life, I had seen what happens when we would build a website for Uber Eats or build a website for a restaurant using Uber Eats as our menu. But then Uber Eats goes in, builds out a ghost kitchen, and takes my customer data, my transaction data, and starts marketing directly to those customers. I saw the same thing on Amazon, right? We would build out, there was a car parts website that we built out, and then they started listing on Amazon. And these weren't like, they were selling car accessories, I should say, not car parts. And then
So
all
it
of a
was something
sudden,
kind of noticeable.
yeah, and replicable, right? So all of a sudden, Amazon sees that this company is doing $1 million a month in this air freshener or whatever it is, and next thing you know, there's the Amazon Basics air freshener out there.
Kind of the murky area of dealing with marketplaces.
Yep. So that
Yeah.
was a big frustration for me. And then
The iframe really prevents the SEO from truly working in the company's favor, right? I know that's a strong point of Dispense, and I think if I remember correctly, that's one of the selling points that originally pulled me on at a previous point of sale company when I was talking with you guys about integration.
Yep.
And
And that was, and that ties into the marketplace thing too, right? Because in the early days of rec cannabis, if you searched for like a hot product, whether it's like a Wana gummies or a Kiva chocolate or Jeter pre-roll, Jeter wasn't really early days, but you get my point. You would end up on like weedmaps.com or iheartjane.com, like one of these marketplaces. And so me as a digital marketer for a retailer, if somebody Googled a product that I carried, I wanted that customer to end up on my website, not a third party marketplace. So that's how I met Kyla and Tim, the founders of Dispense, in my search for an e-commerce platform that I could retain control and ownership over. And they hadn't,
interesting.
yeah, and then they hadn't built out. They were using iframes to power their menus as well, but they were a true SaaS platform. So we kind of all had this moment where it was like, you're already a SaaS platform, which is one part of the component, and then two, I had the background of SEO and digital marketing, and then that's kind of how I got started.
Nice. That's how the story ends and begins, right? In the next chapter.
Yeah.
And on the Dispense side now, you guys offer a full e-comm experience with a menu for dispensaries and a few other features kind of sprinkled on in there. I think it's been layered on over the years to build a very comprehensive suite at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Dispense actually started as a layer on top of another e-commerce platform, and it was built for the original feature was really order management. We allowed people to book time slots to pick up their order, and this was necessary because of COVID, specifically in Illinois. You had to book time slots, and the iframe solutions didn't offer that. So we actually the original feature was just built on top of that. E-commerce was added on later, and then it became this like, more and more features. It became this full featured platform. We also offer digital in-store ordering with kiosks now, and see about 30% of orders that we process across all of our retail partners are actually digital in-store on kiosk. So pretty
Wow.
diverse offering of different features, a big focus on order management in the store as well.
Yeah, and with kiosks taking a bigger slice there maybe than people would think, I kind of agree with that direction in the long term. If you know what you want, if you know kind of your space and your locale, more experienced consumer, it's pretty quick to just say, I know what I want. I'm after this strain or this kind of concentrate. I like live rosin and XYZ. Here's my total.
100%.
Sometimes, it's just a little faster.
I think the only like downside of it right now is it's harder to shop by batch that way, whether you're shopping online or at a kiosk. I think that like in the future, we'll see batch IDs get integrated into that process. So not only are you like looking at like live resin from 710, but you're looking at like the A batch of live resin from 710 versus
batch 87 versus 103 made later.
Yep. And you'll be able to see like the difference in the COAs, like batch 110 has, this level of terpenes and batch 112 has this level. So you know what? I'm going to go with batch 110.
Yeah, that's a fine degree of shopping for sure. And actually those results are already available.
They are
with integrations. It's just more the market knowledge, I suppose, and kind of the right time,
Right time. Consumers have to be ready for it. Technology has to be ready for it. The results are there, but not dispensaries have to build up the SOPs for that too, right? Like your dispensary might get those results, but they don't always enter it into the POS system. So there's a lot that has to come together for that to be a reality.
It gets a little dicey there too, because a lot of folks are riding on averages when they list THC percentages. On the labels, you can see actually what it is. But if you had a knowledgeable consumer that was buying from the batch, certain batches may not get bought if they tested low, but it encourages some honesty in the supply chain, right? Some true honesty about the variability or maybe a bad harvest every once in a while.
It happens. It literally happens. But I think it'll also like allow retail shops to differentiate themselves. You know, like you'll have your more like pre-pack, just order the strain and the brand, and you know who knows what batch you get. But then you'll have shops that are like super niche down, and they're like, you know what, we only sell concentrates, and we actually sell concentrates by the batch.
Yeah, here's the COA link with everything.
Yep, and it's like the people that like, you know, I got friends that like they bring their dab rig with them everywhere. They've got a padded case that they bring their dab rig, and they have a digital thermometer that they light their nail up to a specific degree. Like, guess what? That's where those people are going to go shop.
Yes, and I feel like the industry overall tried to look past the regular smoker, the connoisseur, the guy with the dab rig, the mobile dab rig, and they tried to focus more on like, we're going to get these new consumers. We're going to help everyone enter the industry, which is awesome, right? You don't want to gatekeep. But the legacy folks, the like OG smokers, they are the heavy spenders, the return shoppers, the ones willing to explore like connoisseurship, new products, things like that. It's almost like like an obvious thing that everyone kind of looked past. But now I think there has been a little bit of a U-turn to focus back on the connoisseurship aspect and kind of the quality side that can be found at different price brackets.
Yeah, I agree, man. I always hated the term "can of curious." I'm here to like. Some people might like take offense about like the terminology here, but like I'm here to sell weed to stoners.
Right, and it's a lot of stoners that are the ones buying that. It's whether or not you point it out or find other redeeming factors for socio-political marketing reasons or not.
Yeah, I mean, people would call me a stoner, and I don't take offense to it. You know, like I don't even smoke that much, but I smoke enough to occasionally get that label.
Yeah, no, it's it takes all kinds in the industry. It takes a village, and all the businesses and all the personality styles. How has it been for you on the software side of the cannabis space? I think it's kind of a unique lens to have from my background in software and so far, in that you see many ops and you kind of see glimpses of their operation in like the problem you're solving. And in doing that, I feel like you implicitly learn a lot about the space, or you kind of start to osmosis some of that knowledge. And I love that kind of ancillary aspect of it.
Yeah. I do miss being like on the retail side. I just like that connection with not only the plant, but like the customers.
Actually serving and helping.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a lot, like, I mean, I've talked to bud tenders who are like, bud tending is more stressful than being a waitress, So like, I'm not trying to shortchange like how hard it is, but like, it's a lot, it's very rewarding too. On the software side, like there's definitely some huge benefits. I mean, like, one, the scope of what I see is so much larger now. So I like you said, I feel like I get to learn more faster. On a real like level, the actual benefits in the software space are better than in the retail space too. Like I have health coverage 100% covered, like working for a software company where like 100% healthcare in retail is like reserved for like store managers, you
have to be upper tier.
Yeah, so that's like, I think there's just this difference in like industry that I appreciate about being on the software side, and it has some personal benefits, but like I still like to be involved, and I try to like, I try to make sure like I'm connecting with like my local shops that use our software so that I can like be hands-on still,
Right. Still go where the work is and kind of see how the product's actually being made. I think that's definitely important.
Yeah.
Both selling and building anything. And yeah, I mean, of course I enjoy the software side, solving problems and things like that, but there's still this memory just sitting on 5-gallon buckets, trimming flour in the grow, it's like
Yeah.
just listening to Action Bronson or some kind of hip hop or something there and just hanging out, pulling a long shift with the ladies.
Yeah. Now
It's
we've
still
got,
very nice.
not, trim parties used to be like pizza and beer, and now you've got like, you can never pull some of that stuff off these days.
Yeah, yeah, hair nets and beard nets. You're
Yeah.
you're in the facility, man.
Yeah. It's a different experience. No, we're not on the mountain anymore.
That's got to be cool to have some clients close by and actually see the product in the wild too. Does Dispense cater to specific regions at this point, or is it really widespread now, coast to coast?
It's coast to coast, 100%. I wouldn't say that like we cater to any specifically. I will say like we are heavy Midwest and East Coast based, but I think that's more of just like a trend that has happened because of timing of legalization. Like a lot of Midwest went legal right around COVID, and so they adopted online, maybe faster than like a Cali or Colorado because online wasn't a thing in 2014 when they went legal, you know?
That's a good point. Like the newer licenses were like, well, this is the way forward. This is the current playing field.
Yeah.
Where an older license or a legacy state from earlier in the space is kind of like established, right? The day to day is there. The
Yeah.
SOPs are there already.
It's crazy. I mean, that, New Jersey's the hot new market right now, right? And so like it's crazy to see New Jersey stores opening up with, they have a website up and running before they open, they have an online menu, they have kiosks in store where like in Colorado or even in Michigan, like it's been an evolution. You didn't open with kiosks. You like a year later, you're like, oh, I should probably get some kiosks, you know?
It was much more incremental at that point, where now I think the states
Yeah,
are learning and looking back at the states that went before them and
totally.
understanding that big picture almost from day one.
Totally. And it's cool to see that evolution. And I can't even imagine like by the time Idaho legalizes, what our dispensaries going to look like?
Yeah, who's going to be last? Idaho, Kansas, Texas,
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. There's a new one to the running.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be hard for some of those states to finally flip the switch. You think that the tax dollars and the jobs and kind of the revenue side of things would convince everybody to play along there, but every state has its internal battles and such.
Yeah. It's crazy. Wisconsin will be surrounded when Minnesota goes rec. You got Minnesota, Illinois, and Michigan, and the Wisconsin will just, hopefully the tax incentives will be enough once they're like losing money to three different states. But
Because all their folks making Wisconsin money are going to be spending that elsewhere,
yeah,
and the cheese prices, may be affected.
their local economy might not be doing so hot. We'll see.
For sure. That's how I feel about Kansas too, on the Kansas City border.
Yeah.
Everyone's like literally Missouri's breaking records at the time for recreational sales. And it's like, that's what happens when a state opens for two states.
Yeah.
I think there's a dispensary there that's almost like 100 feet off the border. So it's
Literally. Yeah, I mean, same thing
pretty
happened
wild.
in Illinois when, Illinois was legal, but Missouri wasn't. And now
There
Missouri.
was some right there on the line, huh?
Yep, yep. I mean, that the first store that we launched in the Dispense was launched in was in a Collinsville, Illinois store, which was on the border of Illinois and Missouri.
Wow. Yeah. A high traffic store for sure.
Super high traffic. Yeah.
And when you guys roll out a e-comm platform for your partners, for your dispensaries, it's all custom. Like they put their brand on it, their logos, or is it a combination kind of utility and customization?
Yeah, I would say combo. So where we're at right now is, it's an out of the box product, similar to like what you would get with like a basic level Shopify, where you can go, you get a template for how everything works, and then you can go in and you can customize your fonts, your brand colors, your icons. You can kind of customize the look and feel to be on brand. Being that still pretty early in the process, there's more customization coming down the road. But it also like makes it accessible to organizations that might not have full like custom dev teams, right? Like as a marketing manager, I can go in
Yes.
there and upload my assets and it's just like done for me. So we've really focused on that out of the box aspect of it. We will be rolling out a headless solution, opening up our API so that people can build full custom. But then I think we'll continue to really focus on building out the what you see is what you get version of Dispense because we want it to be accessible to
And like
marketing.
frictionless experience with that,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, we're gonna have enterprise level that wants full customization, but I think at the end of the day, you see you see more people migrating to easier to use platforms like a Shopify Plus than you do building out on Magento these days. That's just the trend.
Yeah, right. It's if you think about I mean, in product management, there's a theory called jobs to be done. That's basically like everything you build, everything you do, it's solving a job for that user, that
Yeah.
consumer.
Yeah.
So if they're finding a way to solve that job, right, paying less, needing to spend less time learning and tinkering with, maybe even having less support, suddenly becomes kind of an obvious decision for them.
Totally. I mean, I think the obvious one on the e-commerce side is, and even POS side is like deal creation. Like we're building out these like SOPs for how to create all these different kinds of deals and making it so that you just are selecting from a drop down of like, all right, I want to build a buy one get one, and I want it to
Oh,
be
interesting.
mix and match, and I want it to there's stacking options too. So it's like you don't have to go in and custom code how you want deals to stack. You're just selecting like this stacks this way, or like discount is applied to the highest priced item, like really trying to make that easy and then also like build it for scale, right? Like you're not having to go in there and create that discount for all 12 stores that you manage. You can just say like, hey, this applies to all my stores, or this applies to stores A, B, and C, but not D, E, and F.
Right. Yeah. And then just being able to manage all those locations, I imagine, is can be stressful already, let alone having to go to like 10 different instances of the shop and add a discount or make some changes.
Yeah, and then you layer on user permissions on top of that, it gets complicated quickly.
Yeah, yes, man. And I imagine so. You got to always keep those granular. On the integrations front, I saw that you guys are integrated with a few different analytics solutions, and that seems to be the data that a lot of your awesome posts are kind of stemmed on or based around. Man, do the data integrations work with Dispense, and kind of how has that been seeing some of that data or being able to ask some questions? I imagine that's kind of cool, a little crystal
Yeah,
ball almost.
it's super cool. I mean, I think it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier, like the difference between the retail and the software side. Like I see so much more of the picture now. Quick anecdote, like I remember very vividly the first time we did $1 million in sales at our retail shop in a month. Like it was like, whoa, this is a moment, right? Now it's like tens of millions every single month across all these customers, and so much
Yes.
wider scope of things. And the data is super important, not just like more so for our customers than anything, and like integrating with those tools like specifically like a GA4, right? Like being confident that our GA4 integration captures 100% of the picture is a massive value proposition for the people that we work with. You know, being somebody who did work with some of these iframe solutions at one point as well, a consistent number that I ran into is that usually only about 30% of my menu traffic and conversions would push through to GA. So if I sold 1,000 items in a day, I would only see about 300 of those register in GA. Um,
Oh, wow.
and that's mostly just because Google has a really hard time uh, following along with the user journey within the iframes because it's just one page that's being reloaded through
Can't actually
JavaScript.
tell what's changed or what's
Yep.
updated.
So they have a really hard time following it. So like, I was trying to apply marketing tactics that I learned in mainstream e-commerce to cannabis, but I couldn't see the insights from my users and my transactions the same way. So that's a
Yes.
huge value, is to be able to see that whole picture and then take it and implement it into your marketing strategies. And like one really good example that I lean on heavily is like abandoned carts. Like being able to see where a user falls off in that process and then make UX changes to hopefully increase conversion rates. But
Right.
also the data that you get, like, certain platforms, they'll tell you, hey, out of 1,000 sessions, you had 50 abandoned carts. But they won't tell you anything else about that. They won't tell you what products were in there, what the price of the products were, what the
There's a lot.
category
There's a
brand.
lot more layers you could drill into after that,
So
into
like
the why.
it's like I want to be able to send an email that says, "Hey, you left a Jeter pre-roll in your cart. If you check out now, here's $5 off that pre-roll." Where in reality, with most of these e-com platforms, you're saying, "Hey, you left something in your cart. I don't know what it is. Here's $5 off."
Come back.
Yeah, yeah,
And tapping into the analytics like that with Google gives you that data-driven decision making.
yeah,
That again, it sounds like an obvious thing, but certain organizations that will go unnamed on this podcast do not make data-driven decisions. They make emotion-based decisions, like perspective-based decisions, or in the product world, they're called the hippos. The highest paid person in the organization decides,
yeah.
which is great at times. But having data to gauge that against, or to sometimes sway the vision, is key to innovation and I think, to building a product in reality rather than just building an ideal product, the way that some teams can tend to get off the path.
One of the coolest things that I'm still learning GA4. I kind of hate it most of the time, but one of the
It's in
coolest.
that phase where you're battling with it.
Yeah, I'm still learning. It took me 15 years to learn regular Google Analytics, and now we have to switch. But it's all good. But
For switching for the better, does 4 introduce more AI, ML kind of experiences, or?
no, but it's more. It gets deeper. Like there's more. Regular GA is more simplified, where GA4 you can get like more into the details and the nitty gritty. And so like one example
Okay.
of that is like I can pull like GA4, it automates like pulling a graph of all my like product names. So like I can go into GA4, open up a dashboard, and see that like my or like I can sort by strain, like based on the way my products are named, I can sort by strain. So I can see that like online, my highest selling strain is Gorilla Glue, but then I can look at my POS and see that my highest selling strain is like OG Kush, right? So it's like, what kind of insight does that give me into my online shopping versus my in-store shopping? And you can just get very granular with GA4. It's not easy to do in my opinion right now, but it's possible, and the people that are like taking full advantage of that are probably going to have the upper hand in 6 months, let alone in 3 years.
Yes. Yeah. It's that fast getting that
Yeah,
cycle back and looking at the data.
yeah, it's super cool.
And I think in that regard, the industry is slowly maturing, both in like the marketplace and what can be advertised, right, in connoisseurship or in kind of appreciation for cannabis, but also in its use of technology. And like that's really the next bastion, is getting around to some of these analytics, really diving into your margins. And I think as businesses get more competitive, like that is going to be the differentiator, as just knowing your numbers and knowing the degree of variance you have, being able to forecast, have a budget, some understanding of your demographics, all kind of coming into place for the cannabis industry, with guidance from the mainstream, right, from manufacturing and
Yep.
and big retail and marketplaces. I think it's
Just
it.
making sure you have the product on the shelves that people want is so huge. Like the amount of lost business and sales because you didn't reorder something in time, like you just didn't know because you didn't have those insights. So it's
Right. Or didn't account for the lead time after you place the order from the vendor that it takes like 11 days to get there or something,
yep,
It's
yeah. So
all that kind of stuff.
I agree. Right now it's all about being more efficient, and even in like the process of being able to push through more orders in a day. If we go back to like the kiosk thing, like there's companies out there that like the only way they can sustain the volume that they do is that they use digital ordering, whether it's online or in store, because you couldn't
I see.
physically talk to that many people.
To have that, and you have them all on payroll and
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
having those conversations, huh?
yeah,
Oh, so kiosk mode, for better or worse, it shortens the transaction time, huh? Pretty
yeah. I mean,
drastically.
the one hiccup I would say that kiosk mode still has trouble with right now is payments. You still got to go up to the register to either pay in cash or,
Yeah.
try to use one of these PIN debit solutions that might work or might not work.
Depends on the week and on the cease and desist
Yeah,
market.
yeah. So, I'm hopeful though that like with some of our payment partners, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to introduce like pay by bank at the kiosk solution, and that can just make it that much quicker for people to get in and get out and get home and enjoy the product.
Right. Vending machine kiosk style.
I don't know that I mean, I know there's a couple people out there doing vending machine, but I think it'll be more like, I think
Just
it'll be,
order placement and
yeah,
payment.
you order it on the kiosk, and then you'll probably get like a QR code that says like pay by link, and then you pay, you connect your bank account, and then by the time you've paid and you walk up to the counter, they're like, here's your order, Rob, and you're out the door.
Right. Knowing that you were coming up already.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just saved so much time on that front. I
Yeah.
can see the argument for sure because, I mean, most of the dispensaries I pop into here in Vegas, it feels like almost a joke. It's like any time, any dispensary you choose, it's still like a line of 6 or 7. Uh, Sometimes even it's surprising. It's like, I'm going to pop in here. It's like 5:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm on the way to the gym. No one will be there. I'm like, oh, what?
Yep.
6 people are here and someone's at the ATM already.
My local dispensary down the street, they don't open until I think they moved to like 10 a.m. But they're like right next to a coffee shop, so people
Oh,
will
man.
go
They're
get their
just waiting.
coffee and wait for it to open.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. Grab a latte and chill for a moment.
Yeah.
And consumption lounges are coming around the corner in Michigan too. I'm excited to see how those evolve and I mean how that affects the space in general. I think that's worthy of a whole next episode, my friend.
It is. The only thing I'll say about that right now is I think Michigan is super unique in that sense. And I think that consumption events will actually hold a bigger place than the lounges themselves here in Michigan. Because you can get licensed for one-off events or recurring events, and like you can get licensed for music festivals. I mean, Michigan is home to one of the largest electronic dance festivals in the country with Electric Forest.
Yeah.
Electric Forest can get a licensed consumption, a licensed event consumption. Or, I don't know, I'm saying that wrong, but a license for consumption at their event.
At their event.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh wow.
and that's
Yeah,
that's
that's a
unique.
game changer.
That's like Colorado and Michigan are like, maybe California too, are like some of the only states that have event licenses like that. And I think that'll be a bigger thing than lounges, at least here in Michigan.
It draws bigger crowd. It actually has that appeal to bring people out where I
We've got one near where I live. It's small. It's by one of our local shops, but it's called Summer's End Smokeout. And they bring, it's a full 3-day festival. You actually have to go to a designated area to drink a beer. You can smoke
yeah.
anywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the trend, man. We'll see that shifting more and more, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
Awesome, Jeremy. Well, yeah, thank you again for coming on the show today, dude. It was good to pick your mind and kind of hear about your journey, as well as learn a little bit more about Dispense. Where can our listeners learn more about the company and connect with you?
Yeah. So dispenseapp.com. And if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn is usually the best place to do that. Jeremy Johnson on LinkedIn. It's pretty obvious which one I am. There might be a joint in the profile picture. So
The cannabis one. We'll drop a link in the show notes.
yeah, link in the show notes. There you go. But yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, or if you're somebody who goes to these events, like I try to do like a decent amount every year. I'll be at BizCon in November, and I'll be presenting on SEO for dispensaries Tuesday at the Marketing Forum. So if you're out there and you want to learn how to do SEO, how to drive revenue for your dispensary online, come swing by and say hey.
Hey, awesome, man. Yeah, thanks again, and I'll see you down here for BizCon soon.
Cool. Yeah, man. I'll see you in Vegas.
Thank you for listening to the Apartment 113 podcast. For more information about the show, along with our services and courses, visit apt113.com. We offer cannabis software product management, cannabis education courses, and freelance writing. With over a decade of experience in the cannabis industry, Apartment 113 is here to help.